Well, welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing another podcast with Pratik and Josh. Today we're talking about cities in video games.
Yep.
So, this is something that, once again, I have a bit more experience on than you, and that's because the podcast is all about that. That's about me knowing a bit more than you when it comes to games. That's what it's about. So, today we're talking about playable cities. Cities that we can play in and cities we can play with, I guess. So I'm going to start it off with just the basic one. We're going to talk about Sim City. Do you know what Sim City is?
Some mobile game?
Well, it is also a mobile game. Yes, there is some mobile Sim City. But, well, actually, we could talk about that. We could just talk straight up about that. Because regardless of it being an old Sim City that I used to play or a new Sim City that my kids will play, it's still the same game fundamentally. And what that is kind of a management and creation tool of making your own city and making sure that that city doesn't burn to the ground or get hit by a meteor or anything along those lines. So my first question to you, which is something that you aren't prepared for, but I want to get your ideas out. What do you think compels somebody to want to create their own city? Somebody want to manage that city, somebody who wants to fill that city in with a little bit of love.
When you think the city's not done right.
No.
When you think the city's not done right, you want to make some changes.
So you want to
when the changes are to be made, you would rather those changes be from you than someone else.
But what if it's creating that city from scratch? Just a brand new city. You got a new you got a new base of land and you're going to build some buildings. What's so appealing to you when you see a game like that?
Where I have to build a city from scratch?
Yeah.
Well, I can do stupid stuff with it.
Yeah.
If it's allowed, like funny stuff.
Funny stuff.
I don't know if you can do it in Minecraft because
yeah, but I think that Minecraft would be a different type of thing. I think Minecraft's more of a.
Yeah, again, I'm really bad with games, so.
Yeah, well, I think the appeal for most people. I mean, I think for SimCity, especially for you, I think of course, going on there and just creating a giant phallic-shaped building and just showing your friends and laughing is always so much fun. There's nothing wrong with goofing off.
Do you really have to say phallic?
I had to say phallic, yeah, because it's going to school. But it's I think that a lot of people have the appeal of just wanting to build something funny, goofy, fun, something creative, something that's not crazy, something they don't take too serious. I think that's definitely a mass. I think that's something a lot of people do. But I do think the main reason people find these city building games so attractive is, again, a sense of control. I think that when they play these games, they feel like they have their own project that they can keep coming back to and working on. You don't build these cities in 10 minutes and then throw them out. You spend days on them, you spend weeks on them, you spend years on them. If you're playing games maybe like City Skylines, where you've built this, super complex plumbing system and electricity and water that goes through your city. You got a metropolitan over there and the suburbs over there, and a lot of people find enjoyment in meticulously planning out each part, including the plumbing and the water and the electricity and the gas to each building, and creating these parks and these amusement parks and these towers and seeing a project that they built, seeing it as their own baby, their child that they look down at and they go, that's something I made. I think that the main appeal is having a little thing that's yours. I think that that's something that Fallout 4 used. I think that Bethesda used settlement crafting in Fallout 4 to create this sense of community that you created and that you manage. I think that was the main reason they implemented it there. I think that games like City Skylines do it for, that's their whole selling point. And I think that a lot of people play Minecraft for that reason, if you want to consider that also maybe a playable city to an extent. I think that they want to create something that's theirs. I think it's, having a digital art to come back and work on every day is a lot different than going out and working on your body or, building those muscles. It's more of a building your digital house. You don't have to give it your full attention. You can build a little house while listening to this podcast right now. Actually, you could be playing City and playing this on your earphones, and you don't have to look at it. You don't have to look at other things. You can just do that. You don't have to give it your full concentration, and you can kind of be abstract. I think that's the main reason people buy these city building games. But I think that the next topic we're moving on to is cities in games and what makes those cities so great. Now, I know that you're not a super versed with a lot of worlds and cities in these games, but I do know you have some knowledge of some games and you're a bit younger. And I want to ask you, what world do you remember the most when you were a kid in any game you've ever played? Is Mario's? Is it some?
None. I remember San Andreas, and I usually like most of the GTA games because they were quite famous when I was a kid. Then there's this other game called Machine Room. I used to play when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that.
Now I know Machine Room doesn't have an open world per se, but I do suspect that you mean more in terms of just like the world that built, like the city, as in like the whole entire
just like when I say
concept.
City, I mean just where
atmosphere.
Yeah.
I know you, and what makes Machine Room stand out? Because I know exactly what you mean when it comes to that game. That game has a very particular sense of style, and it definitely brings you in a different way that maybe like Mario would. You know, it's not goofy.
I just love Cyberpunk and retrofuturistic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you want me to play Fallout for the same reason.
No, Fallout's great. Yeah. That actually brings me on to the next topic.
Yeah,
I think Fallout is another game I was going to bring in, which I think shares very, very, very similar, like you said, themes of just atmospheric themes with Machine Room.
I did try playing it, and then I actually liked it, but I never got to finishing the game.
It's a good game, and I think that one city, if we're gonna be very specific on playable cities, I mean, we can talk about the capital wasteland of Fallout 3, or we could even talk about the New Vegas and Fallout New Vegas. But I think I'm gonna specifically focus on one part of Fallout 3's capital wasteland, which is Nuketown. So I don't know if it's Nuketown or Nuketon. I don't know. I say Nuketown because I don't really know if it matters too much. But this town is kind of the first town you will encounter in Fallout 3. It's optional, but obviously that's where it takes you, and that's kind of the first thing you come when you pop out. So I don't know if you know what Nuketown is, but here's what Nuketown is. I'm going to create a picture for you. It's a little bit of a play on words. Yes, it's this little town after the apocalypse where there's a nuke that hasn't exploded whenever the things did explode about, 200 years before that, right?
Yeah.
So there's just had this nuke that's been sitting in this wasteland, and people built a city around it. So, okay, and you're thinking, okay, that's pretty unique. Little nuke around, a little city around a nuke. Not a big city, a little trashy little city. It looks super crappy and scummy. But then you start to see, like, okay, well, there's some people who, you walk into this city. What do you get? You get a guy who comes up to you. He's got a cowboy hat, and he's like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to my town, I'm glad you're stopping by. Come to the pub, come grab a drink, You're like, okay, interesting place. And then you're like, okay, there's people worshiping this nuke. What's wrong with them? And then you realize this is the child of Adam. These people worship the nuclear bomb. They're crazy. They're just these wacky nut jobs. And then this is like the first time you notice them. And they're not that important in Fallout 3. I think
but it gives you an idea of what the game's going to be. It
gives you an idea of the atmosphere created by the game, which is exactly right. It's the feeling you get of the game. There's a lot of wackiness. There's a lot of weird, but it's serious. It's not goofy. It's almost like a surreal thing.
It's what the circumstances made of this world in a possible future.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, it makes the city you go into immediately just live in a different way that others don't. You go into the city, you don't see a static object and static objects that surround it. You see a static object surrounded by people who are discussing that static object, which has a choice, which is another thing I think is important when it comes to playable cities, is the choice to affect that city. See, there's something special about this nuke in Nuketown, and that is that you can explode that nuke, and you can take out all the innocent people in that town, and permanently get rid of that city off the map, changing the playable world of Fallout 3. It changes, and that has an effect on your character's karma, which we'll get into in next week's podcast of RPGs. But the effect you have on that city, I think that the fact that you can alter that city in a game that's not even it's not a city altering game. When you look at Fallout, it's a first person shooter role playing game, and role playing elements of being able to explode that nuke is definitely prevalent. But I also think that the idea of changing that city is it was so unique to me as a kid. I know I shouldn't be playing Fallout as a kid, but I did. And replaying it now, I always go there, and so it's the first decision I make. Do I blow up Nuketown or do I not blow it up? It's never really something I think too much about anymore. But it's always something that's crazy to me that you can just do that. I think going into this town, having this atmosphere, and having the choice to affect the peace or you can choose to affect the community around you in that city.
How many different outcomes are for the same as in the game? How many different endings are to the game?
Well, there's one like ending to Fallout 3, but there's like multiple different like endings in terms of like how you're perceived once you die, and that is there's like positive, negative, and the neutral. I think something along those lines. But I think that again, the world you live in is very much it's different. Fallout's universe is not something that you'll ever experience in any other piece of media, in my opinion. Fallout is something I love, dear to my heart. I think that the world it creates is so important. The city that it's in, the world it's in, the capital wasteland, the state. If you play Fallout, I think the retro-futuristic is a great way to put it. Post-apocalyptic wasteland. It is a beautiful idea. It's got amazing world building. You got what the 1950s envisioned the 2077s to look like, essentially, and you got these futuristic ideas from the past. And I think that's such a fascinating concept. Having the world end in a futuristic version of what we considered in the past what it would be, but it's an apocalyptic version of the future of the 1950s. It's super like wacky, but it's such an interesting world that they developed through all the characters and in it and all the world building through its there's a lot of storytelling through just how the world's built, how things are, you walk around, you might see that there's a fridge that's kind of like fallen over, and then you may go see how that fridge may have fallen over because of this or that or that. It's hard to really put into words. There's so many different things you can go around in Fallout. There's so many different quests that you can go on that just explode your mind, different theories on what happened here, what happened there, and there's just so many different things.
You're making it sound really good.
It's a great game. I can go on about it all day, but I won't because we got some other things to talk about, like what you said earlier, and you brought it up earlier, which is, I'm glad you brought it up. It's GTA 5, GTA 4, GTA San Andreas, GTA Vice City. These are the archetypal, like, just the cities games, Yeah. You think about cities and games, you think about Los Santos. That's the first thing that came to my head, just thinking about it. Because it's such a city, the game is always spitting in your face. Los Santos, San Andreas, It's all these different things, but it always spits in your face like it's a city. And you can feel it. The people in that city. It's always a replica of another city as well. You have... I think it's Vice City is GTA 4. GTA 4 is Vice City. Vice City.
Vice City is Vice City.
Yeah, Vice City's Vice City. They go to New York. I forgot the exact name, and I apologize for that. In GTA 4, Liberty City.
I think there's some
Liberty City.
There's a Maryland.
No, Maryland. Like
yeah,
I don't know.
Like but GTA Maryland.
I don't know. GTA 4 is based in Liberty City, which is like a replica of New York.
Yeah.
GTA 5, probably the best-selling game ever. I think maybe one up there with like Wii Sports.
It was on PlayStation 3, 4, and now it's gonna be on 5.
Yeah,
so.
and they got 3 generations of it. But no, what was I saying? What was I saying?
You were talking about the cities of
GTA games. GTA games. So GTA games are almost a farce of reality. You look at GTA 5, and it's like GTA. It's like Lost. It's like what it's like a big joke. They make fun of.
I'm not a big game person, but I do believe that GTA games took RPG games to a whole different level.
Well, do I have news for you, Pratik?
What's that?
I'm not quite sure.
Am I wrong?
I'm not quite sure.
Well, at least for me,
GTA.
When I was growing up, GTA was the thing. Like that was the main thing.
I'm not sure if GTA would be considered an RPG. I think GTA would be considered... No, like, I think it'd be considered
I mean, I can type a cheat code and just like...
sandbox game. True, but I think role-playing... I think we'll get to it in the next podcast, but role-playing is more of a... You can make decisions that... You make the decisions, and they alter the world around you.
I guess...
GTA 5, you follow more of a linear
I know what
path,
RPG is. I think
you
RPG was the wrong... Yeah, open world. That's the word.
Sandbox, open world, yeah. And I think that links back again to the city, because the world is a city. It's Los Santos. And for you to be put into a world and then, be told to play with your toys,
Yeah.
I think that GTA provides so many toys, and it's not just the toys that make that game so good, but it's also the world that you play with those toys in. Being able to fly past these beautiful, city skylines, and being able to go into the different areas and finding these little secrets hidden in the world, and these people with their little stories, and again, links back to things like Fallout and all that jazz, where you're getting that sense of, exploration through discoveries, and really just figuring it out yourself and things along those lines. And I think GTA's definitely has been the forerunner of memorable cities in video games.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to our last little topic, which is just a couple of cities that I think are quite memorable. I think playable cities that are important. I will start with one, which is Witcher 3. I'm gonna go quite quick. You ever played Witcher 3? I know you've watched the Witcher show.
I've watched Witcher on Netflix, but I haven't played the game.
So CD Projekt Red is a Polish developing company. Developers. There's some really good developers. They're great guys. They've made some really good games. They made Witcher 1, 2, 3. They made Gwent. They made Thornbreaker, I think, and then they've made Cyberpunk 2077, which we're going to get onto in a bit. But Witcher 3 has got also just an amazing world. I remember there's a quest towards the beginning of the game. I think it's the Bloody Baron. And you start out this game, you go in and you do this quest for this Baron, and he's got this unborn son who he had to kill, or they lost his son, and then he went depressed. And I'm not quite familiar with the story, but he's a very flawed bad man. But a lot of bad things happen to him, and you watch this man kind of like lose it a little bit, and you really feel these emotions, and you find his unaborted child like in a grave that comes to attack you. It's very weird, but it's mystical storytelling. Its world is so rich with its music and the way it swells up when you walk into towns, and the way that even your beard will grow whenever time goes past, just further making your world feel more believable. And the city, the cities that Witcher 3 takes place in, I don't think are as memorable as other games like, thinking about Imperial City from Oblivion, or Windhelm, or Solitude from Skyrim, or maybe even, Nuketown from Fallout, or the New Vegas Strip from New Vegas. I don't think that they're as prevalent and memorable as those, but I do think that it's quite a rich and beautiful playable city world game. I think the next one to talk about, Cyberpunk 2077. This is more of a speculation one.
That's not out yet, though.
It's not out yet, and that's where we're going to talk about it, is the playable city of Cyberpunk 2077. What do you think? I know you've seen lots of trailers with me. How does the world of Cyberpunk 2077 look to you?
I've seen some walkthrough of the game with you on YouTube, and from what I've seen, it's quite rich when it comes to the graphics that have been used in the game, or just in general the lengths they have gone to, so you can play as this and that, and you can choose. I think that was a brave move whenever they took it first, that we are gonna go this, and you told me like they have so many like mountains of scripts and stuff. So I think it was really hard work, and let's see if it's gonna pay off.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm a big fan of CD Projekt Red. Loved Witcher 3, and Cyberpunk's just the next game. I would pre-order it, but I don't pre-order. So I mean,
you did try.
I did try. I mean, I didn't even try. Someone tried on my account. I can't believe that. We're not talking about that later, but we'll talk about another playable city. This is one that I love. This is one that you cannot mistake with any other city, and this is one that I think will go down as the most, with maybe Los Santos, I think is the most memorable city, and that is Rapture. If you don't know what Rapture is, because I know you don't know what Rapture is, Pratik. You know what Rapture is?
I do not know what Rapture is.
Rapture is a city underground. And when I mean underground, I mean underwater. It's a city underwater that feels like the 1940s, 1950s, 1930s, and it's like supposed to be the future of cities. Again, kind of giving this Fallout vibe. But
Wait, what game is this?
Sorry, I must have forgotten to say. Rapture from Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite DLC, I think. So Bioshock has Rapture. Rapture is the world that it's in. Rapture is, again, another breathtaking world. These tubes that go underwater, and that they go from little area to area, and it's like an underwater world. And you have the big daddies and the those little girls and stuff that you gotta trust. It sounds kind of funny, but no, they do. You have to help them and all that, and take out.
I have to help girls.
You have to help the little girls, yeah. Or you could kill the little girls and harvest them.
Harvest
them, yes. You can use their bodies to get more power.
It's a messed up game.
Well, you harvest. It is quite messed up, but it's very philosophical. It's a great game. It's probably best game to come out from the developers, in my opinion. I don't really like 2K the most.
Who were the developers for this one?
I think it was 2K and somebody else. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, Bioshock, great, another great playable city. We're gonna talk about one more. Tokyo.
I do like Tokyo.
You like Tokyo? You know why I like Tokyo? It's a little game called Jet Set Radio Future for the Xbox original. Jet Set Radio. What can I say about Jet Set Radio? I've never seen such visually stunning cel-shaded gameplay, graphics. It's immersive music. It's music I never heard before. You know, imagine being a 7-year-old American boy, the 6-year-old American boy sitting in his room. You know, he picks up a game on his little Xbox original that his dad got when he was a little bit younger, and you stick in a game called Jet Set Radio. You don't really have a lot of expectations, and then you start playing for a little bit, and you start hearing this Japanese techno music and this funky music you never heard before from, like, you know, American funky music and stuff, and you're just like, what? I remember playing that game, which is a game where you roller skate around in Tokyo and you graffiti stuff, and I remember blown away. Drift. It was blown away. It's such a beautiful game. It's a great game. There's so many different worlds. You have Tokyo, but it's not even like real Tokyo, because you have like this Pharaoh's world where it's got this color scheme of yellow and blue and gray, and then you have this like pink dragon world where there's just like neon lights everywhere. Then you have this one where it's like underground, and it's such a beautiful city that you can go around in, and you always want to discover more locations. And that's the important thing, is that it's not just like I want to know more about the story. It's I want to know more about the story and the physical story. What is the world around me tell me about the story? What is the story being told through the environment? And I'll tell you that playing Jet Set Radio in a different location would not work, because Jet Set Radio, where it was, which is this fictional Tokyo, did it better than it could have done it in any other reality. It's just perfect, and I think it's a beautiful game.
Talking about cities and games, what are your thoughts on Need for Speed?
Need for Speed?
Racing through the city.
Racing games. I think that's a great point you bring up. I think racing games in cities, I think it's a great point. I think Burnout Paradise. I think what you're saying, Need for Speed.
Do you think cities in these games really build the experience for the player?
I think that cities in games like Forza I think it's very important. I think that Forza Horizon 1, 2, 3, and 4 very much matter where they are, because I think that the locations are very much, you know, a part of what makes the game the game. I think the first one, I think, is in France or something. The second one's also, I think, in France. Third one's in Australia. Fourth one's in England and Scotland. I think that those are places people wanted to go and drive around and see what the landscape's like and test their cars out in these beautiful landscapes. I think that Need for Speed, I don't think, is as important. I think Need for Speed could do with more city building.
Game I know.
I think it could use with more city building. Honestly, I think that it's not the best cities. I think Need for Speed Most Wanted and all that.
I used to play that on my PC.
Yeah, maybe. How's the world of Road Rash?
There is no. It's all imagine the most poor graphics for a game that you can imagine, and Road Rash is even bad.
Well, we got two more cities. We're gonna skip Imperial City. I talked about that earlier. We got one more to talk about, and that's City of London and Watch Dogs Legion.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I didn't like it. I'll tell you why I didn't like it. Watch Dogs Legion's world felt empty. I say empty, whilst also liking Watch Dogs 2's world, which I don't know how to explain this, but the world of Watch Dogs 2 was in San Diego. I think that the city of San Diego in Watch Dogs 2 was beautiful. I think it was just colorful, and it was vibrant, and it popped. I'd never been to San Diego, and seeing that was great. Hearing that Watch Dogs Legion was going to be set in the future of London made me so excited to be able to go to my little house in West London and get excited. And then they told me that they didn't actually reach that far out west, so then I was like, crap. But then I was like, okay, it's fine. I've been Central London a bunch. I'm going to love checking this place out. So I played the game. It feels so, I guess the word is just empty. There's no substance to the world. It's the people don't have interest. Their accents, they talk with these accents that don't feel natural. You know, I met a lot of English people. I mean, I live in London, and I just don't hear people talk like that. Like, I hear a lot of people talk, and it doesn't sound like what an American. Okay, it sounds like what an American thinks an English person sounds like. That's what it sounds like. But I know that, like, majority of the voice actors were probably just English people. I just don't think they got good English voice actors. I think there's a lot of good ones. I don't think they got the right ones. That's going to end it off here. I think we've probably reached our time limit. But, yeah, I hope we talked good enough about some playable cities and what those mean to me and what they mean to you and what they mean in general.
I sure hope we did.
All right, well, it was lovely talking, and I'll see you guys in the next one.